Doctor? Is that you? Thank God. Thank you for keeping an eye on me, just as you promised. I hope they passed along the sketches I managed to put together while yesterday's shadows were fading. With those, I can finally share everything that went down yesterday. Doc, do me one favor. When you figure out who I really am, drop it down below and tell me what made you think that. Now listen. You won't believe what happened yesterday. Yesterday my body felt strangely light and yet heavy, and my skin had an odd, warm, sunny hue. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was a cloud, an incredible blue cloud of hair next to me on the pillow, and I felt calm. You see, Doc, it was my harbor, a woman with a cloud for a hairstyle who smelled of baked goods and patience. I got out of bed, my legs barely supporting my massive body. There were photographs on the wall, 3 children. One, a boy with mischief in his eyes. The second, a girl with a pearl necklace, her gaze too intelligent for this house. And the third, a little one, almost an infant, forever with a pacifier in her mouth, but in her eyes was the wisdom of ages. This was my family, and I, it seems, was their father. A strange thought, isn't it? Me, a father. Breakfast was like a battlefield. My son put an ice cube with a frozen fly in my drink. I made a strange guttural sound, something like "dough," and tried to catch him, but he had already flown out of the room on his board with wheels. My daughter was reading a book about quantum physics, occasionally looking up at me as if I were an interesting but simple experiment, and the baby silently shot food at me from her plate. And in the midst of this chaos, Doc, I felt a hunger, not just hunger, but an all-consuming, sacred craving for round, sweet, glazed pastries. They lay in a pink box on the table. This was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, my religion. The woman with the blue hair placed the box in front of me, and for a moment, the house fell silent. I was happy, simply and thoughtlessly happy. But the happiness was short-lived, because I had to go to work, to a huge gray building with 2 giant stacks releasing white smoke into the sky. I worked there as a safety inspector. Sounds important, doesn't it, Doctor? But my entire job was to sit in front of a large panel of buttons and make sure nothing caught fire. The irony is that I could barely tell the on button from the self-destruct button. Before I left, my wife handed me not a sweet donut, but a small white pill. "This is your special vitamin for energy," she said. It tasted like chalk, Doc. She made me swallow it. She said that without it, the day would be difficult. And I obeyed, because in her voice there was care, mixed with a faint exhaustion. The drive to work was an adventure. I almost drove into a neighbor's fence a couple of times because I got distracted by an ad for a new meat burger. The plant building itself weighed on me. It hummed like an angry beehive, and my boss was an old man, thin as a skeleton, who smelled of mothballs and money. His eyes gleamed with greed. He constantly threatened to fire me, but never did. Maybe I was the only one who agreed to work for such a meager wage. My workspace was a chair, a console, and 2 colleagues, oddballs just like me. We didn't talk. We just sat, looked at the lights, and waited for the shift to end. Time stretched like melted caramel. What do you think, Doc? Can a man be responsible for thousands of lives if he can't remember what he had for breakfast? And that's when it happened. A siren wailed. All the lights on my console started flashing red. A loudspeaker roared with an inhuman voice. "Critical failure. Possible core meltdown." My colleagues ran out of the room screaming, and I was left alone, face to face with a panel that demanded a decision from me. I looked at the hundreds of buttons, and there was only one thought in my head. What an idiot I am. Panic was rising. The red light beat against my eyes. The siren was splitting my eardrums. The entire city, my family, my donuts, everything could disappear because I didn't know what to do. I closed my eyes, ready for the end. When I opened my eyes, I saw a cockroach on the console. It was running straight towards a big red button labeled Emergency Cooling. I didn't think. I just smashed it with my palm. There was a loud click, and the siren fell silent. The red lights went out. The door opened, and people walked in. My skinny boss, security guards. They looked at me, then at the panel, then back at me. And you know what, doctor? They started applauding me. They called me a hero. Me, the one who saved the city by crushing an insect. But I didn't feel like a hero. When the siren was wailing, it wasn't outside. It was in my head. The walls of the room seemed to be closing in. The light flickered before my eyes, and there was an unbearable ringing in my ears. And I didn't smash a cockroach. I just pressed the small red button next to my chair with all my might. And soon, a calm man in a white coat arrived. He put a hand on my shoulder and told me I did a good job calling for help in time, and that everything would be all right now. The praise felt strange. I hadn't done anything. After my heroic day at work, I didn't go home. I headed to a small, dark place where they poured a bitter, foamy, amber-colored liquid. It always smelled of spilled alcohol and quiet sorrow. A grim man with a face like a broken vase silently poured me a large mug. I sat there with my friends. One was a drunk with an unhealthy laugh, the other a silent oddball. We didn't talk about work. We just drank, and it was better than any applause. Doc, sometimes the most important conversations are the ones that happen in complete silence. This grim bartender, he always knew exactly which bitter tonic I needed to calm the shaking in my hands before sleep. It was quiet at home. The children were already asleep. My wife with the tower of blue hair was waiting for me. She didn't ask anything. She just hugged me, and I felt at home. Not a hero, not a safety inspector, not a failure. Just a man who is loved. I lay in bed, looking at the shadow of her incredible hairstyle on the wall. It reminded me of something reliable and eternal. I felt my large, yellow body relax. The day had been long and strange, but it was ending. And when my head touched the pillow, I felt my strength leaving me. I fell asleep, and now I'm here, again. Doctor, I hope you won't abandon me and will come back again to help me figure this out. And one more thing, Doc. Please share my story with your colleagues. Maybe one of them knows that I'm lost and just can't find me.